Alright, so this is part one of maybe three videos about week three. And let's begin. Alright, without further ado, number one, this is about linear equations first. The first linear equation is 7 5x plus 6 equals 23 minus x plus 5 in parentheses. And we need to find x, right? And the first thing we need to do is get rid of parentheses. On the left side, 7 times 5 is 35x, and then 7 times 6 will be 42 equals, on the right hand side you have 23 alone, and then this minus affects everything inside, so it's minus x and then minus 5. On the right hand side you can actually simplify. 23 minus 5 is 18, and the x is by itself. And on the left side there's nothing you can do, right? 35x plus 42 cannot be simplified. Now we need to move all the x's to the left, so let's get rid of this one by adding x. We're getting rid of the x on the right hand side. If you add x on the left, you add x on the right, and vice versa. This is the equal sign. On the right hand side, the 18 is left alone, right? Because x minus x just go away. And on the right hand side, well, on the left side, right, rather, you have 35 plus 1 is 36x, and you still have the 42. Now we moved all the x's to the left, so you need to move this 42 to the right by subtracting 42. Subtract 42, you get 36x on the left, and on the right hand side you got 18 minus 42. You can do that with a calculator. As a matter of fact, let me do that. So 18 minus 42, you get, I think it's minus 36, actually minus 24. Alright, so minus 24. We divide by 36 on both sides, you get minus 24 divided by 36. Now to simplify, we divide by 12. Both of them are divisible by 12, so 24 by 12 is 2 with a negative sign, and then 36 divided by 12 is 3. So the answer is x equals minus 2 over 3, and that's the answer, right? On the next problem, this is problem number 2, we're going to do another linear equation, but this one has decimals, and it doesn't make any difference actually, but let's do it. 0.4x minus 0.2, and then equals 0.3x plus 5. Notice the decimal, right? This is 0.3, or maybe 0.3, it's the same. We move first, there's nothing you can do on either side, right? You cannot simplify the left or the right. So what we do is move all the x's to the left. So we moved, or you eliminate the 0.3x on the right hand side by subtracting 0.3x. If you do that first, you get on the left 0.4 minus 0.3 is 0.1x. You still have this minus 0.2 on the left, and on the right hand side, because we cancel the x's, you're only left with the 5. You add 0.2. Alright, so you add 0.2, you add 0.2, you get 0.1x on the left, 0.1x, and the 0.2 cancels. On the right hand side you got 5 plus 0.2, that's easy, right? 5.2. Now we divide by 0.1, so x is 5.2 divided by 0.1, and that gives you 52. Alright, so that's the second problem. To do the third problem, we need to do the following. Every linear equation could be classified into one of three classes. One would be, this is called conditional equation, equation. For example, 2x plus 1 equals 7. Now this is conditional because it is only true for one value of x, right? If you simplify this one, you will get x equals 3. And this is easy to see, right? Because 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So this is conditional because there is only one value that makes the equation true. In this case, the only value is x equals 3. The other kind of equation is called a contradiction. In some cases, you get something like this: 2x plus 3 equals 2x plus 5. You want to solve this equation, and you move all the x's to the left, right? So you say you subtract 2x, you subtract 2x. The x's cancel everywhere, and the only thing left is 3 on the left and 5 on the right. And you notice this is a contradiction, clearly. And what that means is there's no solution, right? Because you end up with a contradiction. So this equation right here is never true. On the first case, the equation is true for only one value. On the second case, the equation is never true. And on the third case, this is called identity. And this is when the equation is true for all the values, or it is always true, identity. For example, 2x equals 1/2 of 4x, something like that, right? Something easy. This is true always because on the left side you get 2x, and on the right hand side, if you simplify, you get 1/2 of 4x, 2x. And this is always true. That's called identity. All right. Now next, this will be number 3. And the question is, you need to classify. The equation is 7x minus 7 equals 2 times 3x plus 4 minus 1. And you need to find out whether this is a contradiction. It could be a contradiction, it could be identity, or it could be a conditional. And the only way we can find out whether this is either one of the 3, contradiction, identity, or conditional, is to actually solve it. So let's write the equation 7x minus 7. On the right hand side, you multiply by 2. So 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times 4 is 8. And then minus 1. You can actually simplify the right hand side, right? You get 6, 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. This right here on the left is 7x minus 7. So the first thing we do, you subtract 6x. Alright, you subtract 6x. Subtract 6x. We do the operation. 7x minus 6x is 1x. Minus 7 equals, the x's disappear from the right hand side, you get 7. Now we add 7 on each side, and you get x equals 14. Once you get to this point, when only one solution is found, you end up with the conclusion that the original equation is a conditional, right? Because there is only one solution. So it is conditional to x being 14 in order for the equation to be true. Sounds kind of funny, but it is. That's the case. All right, number 4. Number 4. This is a formula. This is called a formula, and this is the problem. P is x plus 2y, and this formula is to find p. Right? If you had the values of x and y, you will do x plus 2 times the value of y, and then gives you a value that will be p. Right? So this is a formula for p. The problem is we don't want to have it this way. We want to find a formula for x. So you need to find x, and this is the way we do it. So you have p equals x plus 2y. You need to find x. That means you need to leave x alone. So this 2y is in the wrong place. So you need to move it, or you need to eliminate it from there. So we are going to subtract 2y, and then subtract 2y. On the right hand side, the 2y's and the 2y cancel. You just get x. And on the left side, you have p minus 2y. So what is p minus 2y? Well, p minus 2y. Right? There's nothing else you can do. And this is the answer, but you can actually rewrite it as p minus 2y. All right. So let's do number 5. Number 5. This is slightly more complicated than the previous one, but it is also a formula problem. You have 5x equals 4x minus 2 times m plus 7. And you have two variables, right? You have m and you have x. So you can find a formula for m, you can find a formula for x. But in this case, we need to find the formula for x. Alright, the first thing we do is multiply the right hand side. On the right hand side, you have two binomials inside parentheses, so you do FOIL. So first, 4x times m is 4xm, but typically you do in alphabetical order, so it's 4mx instead of 4xm. Now you do outer, 7 times 4, you get 28x. Inner, m times minus 2, that gives you minus 2m. And then last is minus 2 and 7, so it's minus 14. Alright, so next we need to move all the x's to the left. Let's start with, we need to get rid of this one from the right hand side because it has x, and we need to get rid of this one from the right hand side because it has x. Let's do one at a time. First, let's do minus 28x, so minus 28x. Alright, so equals. First on the left side, 5 minus 28 gives you minus 23x. And on the right hand side, you got 4mx. 28x minus 28x is nothing, so you get minus 2m minus 14. Alright, so you still have to get rid of this 4mx on the right hand side. And the way we do it, you subtract 4mx on both sides. So 4mx. Now, alright, so on the left side you get minus 23x minus 4mx equals. On the right hand side, the only thing left will be minus 2m and minus 14. To find x, we need to consolidate the x's. In this case, we can actually factor x on the left side. If you take x out, you get minus 23 minus 4m on the left. On the right hand side, you get minus 2m minus 14. Now, alright, last thing, we are going to divide by the coefficient. In this case, the coefficient of x is minus 23 minus 4m, so you divide by that, so you get x equals. On the right hand side, you have minus 2m minus 14, and we are dividing by minus 23m, no, minus 23 minus 4m. Let me write the 4m first, so it's minus 4m minus 23. It doesn't matter, right, but it sort of looks better if you do the m first. Now, one other thing, notice everything is negative, right? So you can cancel all the negatives and you write 2m plus 14 and divided by 4m plus 23. And this is the answer at the bottom. Alright, next thing will be number 6. Number 6. The problem here is f equals 9 over 5 c plus 32. And the problem is, this is a formula for temperature, right? C is in Celsius, F is in Fahrenheit. So if C is 15 degrees, we need to find Fahrenheit temperature. Alright, so the way we do is F equals 9 over 5. C is the temperature in Celsius. In this case, it's 15. So you got 32 plus 32. Now we do this term first. And the way we do it is 15 is a number, an integer rather. So you can actually divide by 1 to make it a fraction. And this 15 is divided by 5. So you could divide 15 divided by 5 is 3 times the 9. You got 27 plus 32. And at the end, the temperature in Fahrenheit is 59. So it's 59 degrees in Fahrenheit. And that's the answer. Next, you have complex numbers. Let's do the complex numbers. All right. So the first thing we do is define I, and I is the square root of a negative number. In this case, -1. So we define I to be the imaginary unit, right? It's the square root of -1. Whenever you square I, you get -1. All right. So these two are part of the definition. Now remember that I square is -1. I square is -1, and the unit I is square root of -1. Now we do first. Let's do this example. Let's do -25 square root. And the way we assign the i's here, we first notice that 25 negative is 25 times -1. That's easy to see, right? And then we find the square root of 25, and then the square root of -1. The first part is easy, right? Square root of 25 is 5. The square root of -1, notice this is the way we defined it. So the square root of -1 is I. So the square root of -25 ends up being 5I. Just like, let's say, this is actually number 8, I think. The square root of -16. Well, this is the way you do it. Negative 16 is 16 times -1. And that gives you the square root of 16 and the square root of -1. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of -1 is I. And that's the answer for it. Now, next problem is similar. But before we do the next problem, let's remind ourselves about something. Whenever you have, for example, the square root of 24, this is the square root. So to simplify, let's see if we can find square inside of 24. And you can do, alright, so 2 times 12. None of them is square root or a perfect square. 4 times 6. Actually, that works because 4 is a perfect square, right? So the square root of 24 could be written as the square root of 4 times the square root of square root of 6. And this works because the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 6, well, there's nothing you can do. So leave it alone. Now, what about, for example, the square root of 40? The square root of 40 could be written as 4 times 10. And well, you have a perfect square, which is 4. And the square root of 4 is 2. And then you have the square root of 10. So that's what the answer is. Now let's see when this thing inside is negative. For example, the square root of -40. Alright, so this is where you do it. You have 4 times 10 times -1. This is clearly true, right? 40 negative is 4 times 10 times -1. You can do the square root of 4, the square root of 10, the square root of -1. And two of them simplify because the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 10. Alright, there's nothing you can do with that. And then the square root of -1 is I. So let me repeat that again. The square root of -40 is 2 times the square root of 10 times I. Alright, so let's do this is, I think it's number 9. We are going to simplify -10 minus this, actually plus the square root of -40 divided by 2. Alright, -10, there's nothing we can do with that, plus the square root of -40, notice the square root of -40 is 2 times the square root of 10 times I, and that's divisible or divided by 2. So we can do, let's separate this into 2. -10 over 2, and then 2 times the square root of 10 divided by 2 times I. So you divide. 10 over 2 is 5, so it's -5 the first term, plus the 2 cancels on the second term, and you still have the square root of 10, and then you still have the I. Alright, now next we are going to do operations with i's. This is number 10, I think. So we're going to do 2 minus 5i minus 3 plus 2i plus minus 2 plus I. Now we get rid of the parentheses first, right? The first thing on the first parentheses, we just get rid of it. There's nothing you can do with that. So it's 2 minus 5i. This minus here actually affects everything inside the parentheses, the second parenthesis. So it's minus 3 minus 2i, and this plus before the third parentheses basically tells you everything is the same. So minus 2 plus I. Now you combine the numbers. 2 minus 3 minus 2 gives you minus 3, right? Because 2 minus 3 is minus 1, minus 1 minus 2 is minus 3, and then the i's. So minus 5 minus 2 plus, if you go from left to right, minus 5i minus 2i is minus 7i, minus 7i plus 1i is minus 6i, and this is the answer. Now multiplying. Now this is number 11. Let's multiply minus 3 plus 2i times minus 4 plus 3i. Now these are complex numbers, right? But you multiply because we are going to FOIL. And alright, so the first, minus 3 times minus 4, that's 12. Outer, so 3i times minus 3, that gives me minus 3i. And the inner, 2i minus 4, gives you minus 8i. And then last will be 2i and 3i. 2 times 3 is 6, I times I would be I squared. Now we have to remember the way we define I. So let's do the remainder. I is the square root minus 1, and when you square it, I squared will be minus 1, right? So let's do this. 12, and the next term will be minus 9i, minus 8i, and 6i squared is 6 times minus 1. Now 6 times minus 1 is minus 6, and we do that because I squared, notice, is minus 1, right? I squared is minus 1, so 6i squared is 6 times minus 1, which is minus 6. Now you can simplify. You combine the 12 and the minus 6, that's 6. You combine the minus 9 minus 8, so it means minus 17i. Alright, so that's number 11. We're going to do number 12. So number 12, we are going to divide now. This is a plus I and 8 minus I. We divide the same way all the time. Let's do, for example, in this case, the denominator is 8 n minus I. To divide, this is what we do. Take a look at this one. You have to ignore this one, or you don't have to, but you can ignore this one for right now. So ignore the top. On the bottom, you have 8 n I separated by a minus. So what we do, we multiply by the conjugate, and the conjugate means give the same number, so 8 and then I, but instead of minus, you would do plus. If it was a plus, you would do minus. Alright. And if you multiply the bottom by a plus I, you have to multiply the top by a plus I. Now we can use parentheses, so you actually have to use parentheses, because now we're multiplying on top. 8 times 8 is 64. That's first. Outer will be 8i, inner 8i, and last will be I squared, because I times I, you see I squared, and that happens to be minus 1, but we'll do that in a minute. Now on the bottom, 8 times 8 is 64. You do the outer, 8i, inner, minus 8i, and then last, you get minus, because of the minus on the first binomial. But then you get I times I is I squared, and we have to consider the I squared. Don't forget that, right? I squared is minus 1. So on top, 64 and I squared, that means 64 and minus 1, so that's 63. And then we combine the 8i, that'd be 69. Oops. So plus 69. Now on the bottom, 64, you combine the 64 and the minus I squared. I squared is minus 1, right? So minus I squared means minus 1. So on the bottom, for the number, you got 64 minus 1. That's 65, because minus 1 is plus 1. And then 8i and minus 8i cancel, so you only get 63 over 65. And then, oh, this is 16, sorry about that, I forgot about 8i plus 8i is 16, 69. I neglected to write the 1 for some reason, over 65. Alright, and I'm gonna stop right here. So this is the end of video number 1. Alright, so I'll continue with this shortly, but this is video number 1.